This is A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs. On today's show, Greenfaith's development director and strategist, Anna Wagner, will be here promoting their Interfaith event in San Jose on August 23rd. We'll switch gears and have a conversation with the Oakland Institute's policy director, Frederic Musso, about their annual impact report. But first, the news.
I'm Max Pringle with these headlines. Swedish officials say an attacker wielding a sword has wounded several people at a school in the Scandinavian country. The suspected perpetrator is in custody. The city government said the attack took place in the Brunell school in the city of Fagersta, northwest of the capital Stockholm. Police said an alarm was received early this afternoon local time, and police rushed to the scene. Local media said the suspect was shot by police during the arrest. Police are investigating the motivation behind the attack. Democratic State Senator Aisha Wahab has won former Congressman Eric Swalwell's East Bay House seat, defeating BART board member Melissa Hernandez in a special election to determine who fills out the remainder of his term. Swalwell resigned in April amid sexual assault allegations. Meanwhile, the FBI seized former Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell's electronic devices as part of an ongoing criminal probe. That's according to sources familiar with the situation. Swalwell was served with a search warrant for his cell phone and other electronic devices while he was at the San Francisco International Airport on Saturday night. That's according to sources, and agents served a search warrant at his Washington, D.C. home on Sunday. Swalwell has suspended his campaign for California governor the day after the San Francisco Chronicle reported that an ex-staffer alleged that he sexually assaulted her twice when she was too intoxicated to consent. A Hong Kong court has convicted two former organizers of Hong Kong's decades-old vigil in remembrance of the brutal 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown in a national security case. The conviction came under a draconian Beijing-imposed security law meant to stamp out what's left of Hong Kong's democracy. More from Raf Wober in Hong Kong.
Another landmark verdict for Hong Kong. This court decided today 2 people are guilty of inciting subversion. Those 2 people, Lei Zheyan and Zhao Hangtong, were both organizers of vigils every year in Hong Kong that used to gather thousands and thousands of people to remember what happened back in 1989 in Tiananmen Square in Beijing, mainland China. And the vigils also used to involve calls for political change in China. The case today, the verdict, shows that nowadays in Hong Kong, with the new national security law since 2020, this is going to be a guilty sentence, as we've seen today, if you go out and do that. They face up to 10 years in prison. They'll have a chance for mitigation, and the sentencing is not yet clear. But what is clear is that the situation in Hong Kong, those vigils of the past, are not going to be happening in the same way.
That's Raf Wober. Britain's weather agency is warning that the El Niño event developing over the Pacific means 2027 is likely to be the hottest year on record. The El Niño weather pattern is declared when sea temperatures in the tropical eastern Pacific rise 0.5 degrees Celsius above the baseline average, triggering worldwide changes in winds, atmospheric pressure, and rainfall patterns. That causes warmer global temperatures. The Met Office said the anomalous warmth is up to nearly 2 degrees already and will have particularly strong effects throughout the tropics. That could bring really severe droughts in places like South America and the Western Pacific. Indonesian authorities warn they will take legal action against anyone starting open fires as huge blazes on Borneo and elsewhere created a choking haze that blanketed cities. The fires are concentrated on Borneo, where more than 5,000 hotspots were recorded by Indonesia's forestry ministry. An intensifying El Niño pattern and a prolonged dry season have fueled the fires, generating dense smoke that crossed into Malaysia. Malaysia's eastern state of Sarawak has been among the hardest hit. Social media is flooded with complaints from residents describing breathing difficulties and fears of illness. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels said on Thursday that they've carried out 2 drone attacks on Saudi Arabia, targeting what they described as a sensitive target at Najran Airport and an Aramco facility in Najran. That's according to the Iran-aligned group's military spokesperson. There was no immediate confirmation from Saudi Arabia. The moves threaten to reignite a civil war stagnant since the 2022 ceasefire and threaten to further disrupt global energy supplies. The truce had held until the Houthis last month declared a blockade on Saudi Arabia's Red Sea ports, attacked Saudi tankers, and launched missiles and drones at its oil infrastructure. Yemen's decade-long civil war killed some 400,000 people. The Houthis have routinely attacked aid shipments and seized aid meant to ease a humanitarian crisis that has put millions at risk of starvation. Heavy rain and winds pounded the northeast on Thursday as storms tore through a beach on Long Island, stranded dozens of people in their cars in New Jersey, and knocked out power in parts of Delaware. Photos and videos shared on social media showed debris thrown in the air and pummeling rain as a possible tornado touched down at Atlantic Beach on Long Island's outer barrier. It tore apart a major beach club, leaving broken beach chairs and wood beams littered across the shoreline. Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman said there were no reports of serious injuries or deaths, but there had been damage to property. Partly sunny today in the San Francisco Bay Area, highs in the 70s, lows tonight in the 50s. In the Central Valley, sunny today, highs in the 90s, overnight lows in the 60s. In the LA area, it'll be sunny today, highs in the 80s, lows tonight in the 70s. Those are the headlines. I'm Max Pringle on KPFA.
Welcome back. We are back. This is A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs. Interfaith Climate Justice Summit in San Jose is going to be hosted by Greenfaith. Guess what, folks? More than 75, I think 90 at this point, faith leaders and community members expected to gather to launch a week of action for climate justice, community protection, and the common good. And here to talk about it is Anna Wagner. And Anna Wagner is the development director and strategist for Greenfaith. Anna Wagner, welcome to A Rude Awakening.
Thank you so much for having me, Sabrina.
All right. Yeah, I'm glad to have you. It came across my desk, my virtual desk, this whole event here. And I'm like, hey, what is up? I got to get somebody on the horn and tell everybody about it. So what is going on? I think it's happening on Sunday, right?
It is, yeah. It's in downtown San Jose at First Unitarian Church of San Jose. And it's, as you said, it's a launch of our participation locally in the Covenant for Our Future Week of Action, which is a nationwide multi-faith effort rooted in a simple idea that we have a shared moral responsibility to protect one another, care for creation, and build a just and prosperous future for all.
Indeed. So a just and prosperous future, it seems so far away, yet so close. So tell us about Greenfaith for folks who aren't aware of the organization. So you're based in San Jose. You're bringing together folks from all different faiths under the banner of saving the environment, environmental justice. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Greenfaith is an international multi-faith climate justice organization, and our work is to build grassroots moral power to end the era of fossil fuels and advance a just clean energy transition and help communities to build a more just and sustainable future. And we are part of actions that are going to be happening all across the country. A similar summit happened in New York City a few weeks ago with 85 faith leaders, and additional summits are being planned in Trenton, New Jersey, Charlotte, North Carolina, New Orleans, Louisiana. And it's really about building faith-rooted organizing for the common good. And what we're going to be up to in San Jose, and yeah, as you said, we're bringing together some wonderful faith leaders across tradition. And it felt like such an important time to do this, because if you look at many of the policies coming out of the federal government, they are not only harmful for our planet, for our local air quality, for our energy costs. We're seeing a lot of rollbacks, but it's also, there's harms across multiple issues. These issues are interconnected. Increased funding for ICE, for instance, taking away people's SNAP benefits and Medicare benefits. We're seeing these issues tied together and coming together across faith traditions, where so many of our traditions say we must care for the earth and one another. It's so central. We really see a lot of power and a great need for that relationship building and collaboration and work for justice together.
Indeed, there you said it. Collaboration and work for justice together. Indeed, indeed. So the party, well, we won't call it a party, the gathering. The gathering is going to
Well, we
be
hope to have
happening.
a good time, so
Smiles, smiles all around. That's
that's it.
right.
Yeah.
Again, folks, it's going to be happening on Sunday, August 23rd, 1 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. And that's at the First Unitarian Church of San Jose. That's 160 North 3rd Street, 160 North 3rd Street in San Jose. South Bay Interfaith Climate Justice Summit. And all the information will be on the show description page for A Rude Awakening at kpfa.org. Anna Wagner, Development Director and Strategist for Greenfaith. Thank you so much for being on A Rude Awakening. Truly appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Do you know the way to San Jose? I've been away so long, I may go wrong and lose my way. Do you know the way to San Jose? I'm going back to find.
Welcome back. We are back. This is A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs. For those of you who have been listening to A Rude Awakening the past 6 years, you have heard of the good work the Oakland Institute has been doing over the last 22 years. For those of you who don't know what the Oakland Institute is, here's a description. They are an independent policy think tank that is dedicated to the advancement of human rights, environmental justice, and community control of land and resources worldwide. Through demand-led research and advocacy, they support smallholder farmers, pastoralists, forest dwellers, and indigenous communities confronting exploitation and injustice. And for 22 years, their work has helped win court victories, secure divestments, stop harmful projects, and protect land defenders. And the Oakland Institute has released their annual report covering their hard-won battles and achievements, as well as what is to come. And since we have limited time here on Rude Awakening, we're going to be going over just a few, chosen a few of the highlights from the report, some of the wins, and a few of those struggles that are still in progress. And here to talk about this battle-hardened organization is its policy director, Frédéric Mousseau. Frédéric, welcome back to A Rude Awakening.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. Very glad to be back in the show.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. It is an absolute honor, as always, to have you here. And this is something to celebrate. This is the time to celebrate a lot of the wins that the Oakland Institute has had since 2025 and coming into 2026. So, yeah, let's talk about it. There have been these demands. We'll start with Sri Lanka, actually. There have been these demands demanding action on war crimes and land grabs that have been happening in Sri Lanka. There's also been the push to put an end to the white elephant agro-industrial projects. And you've been making your presence known. The Institute has been making its presence known by attending a lot of these historical conferences, like the Land Policy Conference in Africa. And you personally, Frederica, you showed up representing the Institute at the, let's see here, is it the Climatters Climate Conference? That's a great name, Climatters Climate Conference in Budapest, where you delivered the keynote address. And also at the Hex conference in Switzerland. So talk to us. I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot, and so much more to come, right? But talk to us about a little bit of, just give us an idea of what folks can read in this annual report for 2025, 2026. Talk to us about demanding action on war crimes and land grabs in Sri Lanka. That is a little or barely reported story about what's happening there. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Sabrina, for giving us a chance to speak about what we've been doing over the past year, 2 years. And before talking about Sri Lanka, maybe just to introduce, and you can read the introduction of the report by our executive director, Anuradha Mittal, who is really talking about the hard times we are in, the grief we can feel at the moment with the wars, with the embargoes, with ICE in the streets, and the wars raging in a number of countries that we know. And what inspires us and what is really structuring this report is this word sumud. Sumud is a Palestinian term which embodies steadfastness and perseverance. And we learn from the resilience of the Palestinians. And despite all what's happening around us, what we want is not to be deterred, but to get more motivation and energy to do what is right and to continue to partner with communities around the world who are affected by all the injustices we know. Sri Lanka is one of those that nobody talks about, but it has been a struggle since 2019, the end of the civil war, where tens of thousands of Tamil in the north and east of Sri Lanka were killed. And we followed what happened in Sri Lanka following not 2019, 2009. And we followed what happened there, and we've been really working with communities in Sri Lanka in their struggle for justice, to fight impunity, because the government of the Sinhalese Buddhist majority has been in power since, and nobody has been held accountable for all the war crimes that took place there. And it's easy to forget, but the communities in Sri Lanka and in the diaspora who have been affected are still fighting for justice. So we've been with them for many years now, bringing their struggles to our reports, to our website, to the media, but also to the UN in Geneva and to every forum we can speak about that, working with them to bring those perpetrators into justice, but also to fight the current state in Sri Lanka, which is a state of ethnocratism, with colonization of the Tamil land being still happening, with the temples being destroyed and replaced by Buddhist temples, with the language being changed, with people still not returning to their land and being under very dire military occupation from their own government. So we are still there, and this is unfortunately not ending soon, apparently, but we are committed to this struggle, as some others will speak about.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than the desecration of their way of life. But you mentioned Samud for Land and Life. There's a section in the annual report for the Oakland Institute. Talk to us about that. I mean, there's no other now well covered story regarding land grabbing than the situation that's happening in Palestine. So talk to us about the Oakland Institute's involvement in that, and talk to us about Samud for Land and Life. Go ahead.
Of course, thank you
Yeah.
for noting this one. Yes, we had one of our colleagues, Anna Blackshaw, who went to Palestine as a volunteer just to witness and to be there and to support Palestinians in their resistance by just being there, being a witness and being a support. And so we had a report from her, which is entitled "What We Can Learn from the Palestinian Resistance in the West Bank," which showcased the grim realities of the settler violence that we see every day on TV for those who are on computers, for those who follow the land theft, the military occupation, all the violence that is inflicted to Palestinians, and I think all of us can learn from the Palestinians about resilience, about persistence, about steadfastness. We know what has been happening for over 70 years, and people, families, mothers, kids, everybody is still standing in the way of the injustice, in the way of the occupation forces. And this is really Sumud, this fierce resilience of the communities that we wanted to highlight as an example for all of us. And they're resisting erasure, they're resisting disappearance from this world, and we see our government in the US being still so much involved in supporting the Israeli government amid this violence and this injustice that we need all to continue to raise and be there, whether it's in protest or just echoing this struggle and reporting about this struggle. And as many Palestinians have said, as long as we keep talking and echoing their voices, they will also be stronger in this resistance to erasure.
Indeed, indeed. There has been, I'd say, global complicity in regards to what is happening in Palestine, in Sri Lanka. And talk to us about this white elephant. How is the Oakland Institute putting an end to this quote unquote white elephant, these agro-industrial projects? Go ahead, Frederic.
Yes, thank you. For many years, the Institute has worked on so-called agricultural investments in the Global South, particularly in Africa. And African communities are told, oh, if you are underdeveloped, it's because you are subsistence farmers. You need to open yourself to modern agriculture the way we do it in the US. And so countries, and in this case it's DRC, countries have been told, okay, you should free up your land, let investor come in, and we will take your land and use machinery and technologies to produce food and to develop your country and to bring an end to anger and misery for you people. And for many years, we've thought this as a lie, which is very obvious, as your displaced farmers who are actually not subsistence farmers because they do produce for themselves, but also sell on the market. And they are actually, in many places, farmers who are struggling because of all kinds of issues of governance, of debt of their country, of the lack of resources, of decades of exploitation by Western corporations and the Western countries. Mm-hmm. And this big project that we are fighting are what we call white elephants. It's like in a country like DRC, you'll have big funding from the World Bank or the African Development Bank saying, okay, we're going to give you a loan. I mean, it's not giving, it's a loan. There will be a loan. You will have $200 million, and then we will develop a mega project for agriculture. And we are working with farmer organizations in DRC, and particularly one farmer organization called CONAPAC, which is a big federation of farmer organizations from all over the country. And we are really challenging the government and the international banks, saying the way forward is not to take away the land and the farmland from the farmers. The way forward is to support them so they can improve their way of life. They can produce food, they can market their products, and taking away their land and making them laborers and maybe forced laborers because they won't have any more land, so they will be forced to work for a corporation, is not the way forward. So for the past now actually 8 years, we've been fighting these kind of big mega projects in the DRC, showing how bad they are for the finances and how bad they are for the people. And we keep fighting because the international banks and the government keep coming back with new projects. And there was one big failed project in 2018 on which we had worked. And the past few years, we've been monitoring another one, which is again terrible, with the government planning to develop this kind of project in somewhere very remote in the middle of the country, expecting that suddenly by creating a public-private partnership with a private corporation and the government, the project will do what they say it will do. But what we have seen is that instead of that, it's embezzlement and corruption, and the hundreds of millions that are being spent on this kind of project, not going to the people, but going to some officials, some corporations, and at the end of the day, nothing happening. So we keep fighting this white elephants all over the continent, actually, because it is one big lie that is being told to Africans, is that, oh, you're not modern, you're not productive, you should do our way. And farmers and farmer organizations are fighting back, but clearly appreciate having a partnership with an organization like us, so we can echo this struggle, and we can also produce a different narrative, show that we don't need this kind of big project to increase productivity or to increase or to improve the livelihoods of the population. We just need decent and appropriate policies that unfortunately never comes for them, because it's not in the interest of the elites, whether they are there or here, as or Western countries always seek projects in which there can be investment for investment funds and banks. And of course, there's no interest in investing as a small farmer in Africa. The only interest and where you can get returns is investing in large mega projects from which you can have food or whatever commodity that you can then export and then get returns if you invested.
So, not only the on the ground work that you do, that the Oakland Institute participates in, which is incredible, and can be absolutely terrifying, I would imagine, Frédéric Mousseau. So, if I haven't already, kudos. Kudos to you. But on top of all of that grunt work, all of the groundwork, you also have to put a suit on and go to these conferences and represent, literally represent. So talk to us about this conference that happened in Budapest, the Climaters Climate Conference, where you gave the keynote address, and talk to us about the big one, the big global land policy conference in Africa. That was historic. That was historic. I mean, it was put on by the African Union. It was put on by the UN as well. And as far as our conversations, other conversations that I've had from folks, especially folks that are battling the Bill Gates Foundation and everything that he's been doing in Africa. We can talk about that if we got more time. If we have a little bit more time left. But
Yeah.
it's been absolutely insane. And all of this talk, all these conversations that I've had over the last 2, 3, 4 years, or actually the last 6 years, since I've been doing this environmental type reporting, environmental justice, climate crisis reporting. Minimal is what I've heard. Minimal amounts of conversation regarding the African Union and what they're doing about this land grabbing by these multinational corporations, by the Gates Foundation, and their fraudulent efforts to sell these techno fixes instead of going with agroecology, etc.
Yeah.
So talk to us about showing up. Talk to us about having to put that suit on and present.
It was actually the same suit because they were Budapest and Addis Ababa were in the same week, so
Oh,
I had to travel from one to the other
yeah.
with my small suitcase. It was really historic, and we were several of us with my colleague Andy Courier. We were involved in this Addis Ababa conference, which was historic because you have this annual land policy conference in at the African Union, but for the first time, the theme was really historical because it was about land justice and reparations for Africans and the diaspora. And it was first time you have an African conference centered on this theme, acknowledging the centuries of exploitation and the colonial theft of land that has been happening on the continent. So it was very exciting because it was involving a number of governments, not enough, because many African governments are actually not as keen as breaking this cycle of exploitations, but it was very inspiring to hear government officials from South Africa or from Zimbabwe who have been really over the years in really focused on this issue of restitution of land. And unfortunately, we know that South Africa, you still have, even so many years after the apartheid, at the end of the apartheid, you still have 80% of the agricultural land in the hands of the white people. We talked about Zimbabwe, where the government of Robert Mugabe tried to return land to the Africans and take away the land that was still controlled by the whites. It was, at the time of the land reform in Zimbabwe, it was 3,000 white farmers owning nearly half of the land of the country and definitely all the fertile land. So these government officials were certainly the most inspiring and the strongest voices behind the conference. And we hope they inspire the government officials to follow the example. We were also taking this opportunity to bring in a number of our partners from Tanzania, from DRC, to talk about the new forms of colonization and land theft, including conservation. And we'll talk later about Tanzania, I guess. But we had one of our colleagues, José Shanghai, a Maasai lawyer, who talked about the grave injustice for farmers, pastoralists on the continent who are today dispossessed from their land because we want to make room for the safari tourists who bring dollars to governments but not to them. And we have the same situation in the DRC where the Batwa, the original inhabitants of the forest in the DRC have been evicted for national parks or for mining. So we brought these new forms of exploitation and land theft. We talked already about agriculture, but we brought these different new factors or relative new factors of land theft. And the major outcome of the conference was to show the old and the past forms of colonization and land theft, and show it is at the end of the day the same struggle, the same colonial dynamics that are happening, with sometimes with the complicity of the leaders, and with the need for African countries and African people to get together as a force. So there was a big sense of Pan-Africanism there, to say that the only way forward for the continent is to hold each other and face these imperialist forces. So that was pretty powerful. There's a call to action at the end of that was issued at the end of the conference that is pretty powerful in terms of what's next, and we hope it inspires many of the government and civil society activists who were there or who are interested. And you can check it out, the call to action of the 2025 land conference 26th land conference in Addis Ababa.
Most definitely. That is the voice of Frédéric Mousseau. Frédéric Mousseau is the policy director at the Oakland Institute, oaklandinstitute.org, oaklandinstitute.org. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with Frédéric Mousseau. Stay tuned, folks. And we are back. This is A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs, here with Frédéric Mousseau, Policy Director for the Oakland Institute, oaklandinstitute.org. But I want to talk about Tanzania. The World Bank has its hands in this Tanzanian regrow project, which is a government-backed conservation policy that actually threatens local communities, including villagers near the Ruaha National Park and the indigenous Maasai in northern Tanzania. So talk to us about what is happening with that. I had a conversation. This has been going on for at least, 5 years, 6 years. And I've been having conversations. I had a couple of conversations in the past 5 or 6 years here with Anuradha Mittal, who is the executive director of the Oakland Institute. But talk to us about what is happening. How did the World Bank's Regrow project affect communities near the Ruaha National Park? And actually, we should back it up a little bit more and talk to us about what's happening now, because I know that the Maasai they're trying to kick out the Maasai folks from their ancestral land in Tanzania. They've been there.
This has been happening.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And why? The reason why is what is
it's so we are told is the Maasai have all these cattle, and there are more and more of them, and we can't keep protecting the wildlife and the biodiversity of the country with the Maasai staying on the land. So this has been really what the government and international institutions such as UNESCO have been saying for many years. And the government, which is in Tanzania, it's a very authoritarian, very repressive government, which has killed many of its own citizens, has been really very aggressively implementing this policy of evicting them from their land. And it's another big lie that we've been debunking, because the Maasai are the ones who actually have been there for centuries and have been protecting the wildlife and the biodiversity. It's actually because they have been there that we can today go for a safari and see giraffes and elephants and lions in their ancestral land. They are not.
Let me interrupt you right there, though. That's the reason why they want to take the land from the Maasai to quote unquote set it up for safaris and whatnot. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. They are the ones who have been the stewards of this land and biodiversity. They are not hunters, they are pastoralists.
Right.
And when I was there last time, a couple of years ago, it was really striking to see the Maasai. You see kids with a stick protecting their goats, and among the goats, you have zebras and you have antelopes. All these really living together, and they are not a threat. And actually, the wildlife can see the Maasai not being a threat and just happily grazing there amidst their own cattle. And it's a bit like the reason is very easy to understand. For the government, there's an objective of reaching 8 million tourists by year by 2030. This will be a 300% increase compared to 3 years ago. So just 2020, I think there were only 1 million tourists annually in Tanzania. The government wants 8 million. And they construct lodges, they build roads, airports, all very luxury, mostly luxury to get the highest income tourists coming in,
Right.
And having too many people in the picture and too many goats and cows in the picture doesn't really work for these tourists. So they want just to evict them so they can increase the revenues from tourism, and it doesn't protect the biodiversity. When you have airports being built, when you have lodges, when you have traffic jams of SUVs, these big Land Cruisers full of tourists visiting the Ngorongoro crater, you see in the morning you have to wait for the jam to go before you can see any animal, because it's a big circus. So they're moving people. They don't give them any alternative land. They don't give them any compensation, and they just use repression. They beat, they torture, they kill people. Some people were killed just last week in the Ngorongoro area by the rangers. Rangers in Tanzania are a paramilitary force. They have the right to kill even if they are not threatened. They see someone with cattle in the park, they are allowed to shoot directly at the person, and they are armed and they are well equipped. And this is where I can bring the World Bank, because this is the financing of the World Bank is for a park in the south of the country. So the Maasai are mostly in the north, but in the south you have another park with some Maasai and some other ethnic groups. And there the World Bank financed the government to increase the size of the park from 1 million hectares, which is roughly 2 million acres, to 2 million hectares. So double the size of the park. With the same objective of increasing the number of tourists in the country, and especially what they call the southern circuit. They feel there are too many people in the north gets a bit full capacity, so we need to open new areas for tourists. So they move to the south, and the World Bank financed a project with $150 million to finance these rangers, finance their equipment, not the weapons, but they finance the cars, the roads, the airports. And they've been completely blind to what the government was doing to its own people, and to the fact that expanding the size of the park, you had over 80,000 people who were farmers and pastoralists living in the park, who are suddenly considered as poachers. These people shouldn't be there. They are encroaching on the park. We should arrest them. We should seize their cattle. We had between 10 and 20 extrajudicial killings over the past 5 years is been egregious. And when we were alerted by local communities who had heard about the work we were doing with the Maasai in the north, we decided to start looking into this. So we had several field missions. We went into the park, we met with the communities, and we saw how the World Bank was complicit with this very aggressive move by the government, and how egregious the rangers were towards the locals who were living there. So we filed a complaint to the World Bank. We initially said they were all these were lies and there was nobody living in the park. There was no problem whatsoever. And then we kept pushing, and we eventually filed a complaint with the inspection panel of the World Bank, which is the accountability mechanism for the institution.
Mm-hmm.
And the inspection panel conducted a field investigation and confirmed everything we had said.
Wow.
Unfortunately, this was 2 years ago, and the World Bank, after this investigation report, said publicly they were wrong, they made mistakes, and they were going to provide redress for the victims. But 2 years after, they still haven't. They have announced some programs that are not even really targeting the people, and the government is still doing the same towards this population. So we've been relentless pushing the World Bank to take responsibility and to assume this responsibility with either working with the government to allow the people to stay in the park and cancel this expansion, or work with the community so they can be offered alternative land and proper compensation and just proper recognition, which they still haven't received so far. And we are there at the moment. It was a big success to prove the World Bank they were wrong and complicit.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big success to have the bank announcing a redress fund for these victims. But now we need the next success is that these announcements are actually implemented, and they're really dragging their feet for that, and we have to push hard. They have all the resources. The World Bank provides 10 billion a year to the government of Tanzania. And it's all about supporting business and economic growth. And they are happily turning a blind eye of what is the cost of this economic growth and this business development, which is really what's happening to these rural communities, pastoralists and farmers who lose their land, who lose their life to the rangers.
My goodness. And that's the crater, the Ngorongoro crater region in Tanzania. Is the Maasai people who are, I applaud that win against the World Bank. I mean, we're talking about the World Bank, Frederic. The Oakland Institute did it. And it's all about knowledge. It's all about showing what is happening. That's a part of the steps to some level of redress and reparations.
It's in a way it's a chance we have in the world today, in this world today, that we have all these communication technologies.
Yes, exactly.
That allow us to be connected directly with communities in rural areas of Tanzania or DRC, while at the same time going to Washington or going to the website of the World Bank and analyzing all their project documents. They have like thousands of pages of documents for each of these programs. And we combine this desk research on their own documents and procedures, what they are supposed to do, what they are not, and so on. How much they are funding, what are they financing, and we mirror all that with the situation on the ground by really partnering with these local communities. And this is how the complaint we filed at the World Bank inspection panel was not our complaint we filed on behalf of the local villagers, and they had to remain anonymous because of of the nature of the government in Tanzania and how dangerous it is for them to speak out. And so we spoke out and we did all this reporting and all this pressure on the World Bank and the management and the executive directors of the bank on their behalf. And it's really hard because they are desperate. They've been in this for 5 years, and they still, like every other day we have a WhatsApp call or message from one of them saying, "What's happening with the World Bank? When are they going to bring us to give us a justice we deserve? When can we go back and farm on our land, because people have their land idle that they can't farm. Their cattle is still being seized, and they have hope, but also they are confronted with so much duress in their daily life, and kids being pulled out of school, the health centers being closed. The daily life is a nightmare for them. So we'll keep fighting.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you've been mentioning the way that the Oakland Institute does it, and that includes anonymity for a lot of the researchers, of course, of course. But talk to us some more. Close us out. Talk to us, Frederick. It's been 22 years, 22 years of the Oakland Institute doing everything it can to make a difference. I've been talking to either you or Anurada for
Yeah.
14 years. It's been 14 years. It's been a long time. I mean, it's been a long time. And
Unfortunately, yeah.
yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, and unfortunately, there's no end to it. It's
Right.
one thing or another, and
Hmm.
we have the capacity we have. We take on some of the triggers, but we don't just publish a report. We want to we when we start something, we remain committed and keep working with communities. So we don't give up, but at the same time, this takes a lot of, like, going after the World Bank takes a lot of energy and resources to just spend the time organizing meetings, write letters, do petitions. It's pretty heavy. But maybe one thing I wanted to raise also is that we worked a lot on conservation in the past. This, I mean, so-called conservation, like safari tourism conservation, I would say. We've worked a lot on agricultural plantations, fighting these big corporations coming to steal land in Africa.
Hmm.
And in the past few years, we got more and more involved into the mining issue because, mining is, we just had a new report, which is called Rush, about the global scramble for minerals. And it's another nightmare. It's been already happening for a few decades, but it's really intensifying now with all the new tech and the military and the AI pushing for more minerals. And Africa again is one of the big targets for this rush. And so we worked in the DRC with in support of Congolese groups who are fighting for the land and the resources, fighting their own governments too, because the government of the DRC has made a deal with the U.S. government to open the country to U.S. corporations, and a number of close friends and business allies of Donald Trump are there pushing their pawns and trying to seize land for minerals. So we are more and more involved in this in or around this issue because it's we talk a lot about climate change, and you've been talking in your program about climate change, but the the mineral rush is the coming disaster after the climate change, because we are told, oh, we need minerals for the green transition.
Right,
But
right.
But it's not true. We only 20% of the minerals actually go to any renewable energy at the moment, and it's not expected to be more than that in the future.
Huh.
Most of the demand comes from the tech and the military, and now more and more with the development of AI, we need more copper and rare earth for the data centers, which also use a lot of energy, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another tragedy there. The first part of this tragedy is that many people believe, oh, we need to do that for the energy transition. And this new report shows it's not true. We don't need that. And actually, given the big scramble for minerals is driven by the military and the tech and the AI, we see all the Silicon Valley companies really being now integrated into the military industrial complex, being awarded contracts by the Pentagon and the current administration. And a lot of it is about getting more minerals for the defense. Trump's military budget is doubling between 2023 and 2027. It's doubling, reaching 1.5 trillion next year. And the data centers are also doubling their size in the next 4 years. So all this is creating a massive rush for minerals, and the US has realized that China controls most of the sector, and it's a real vulnerability for the US to maintain its economic and military hegemony. And this is really driving Trump and his friends and his family actually to be moving very aggressively on the continent to steal land and resources, with a lot of devastation we can be concerned of, because they are rushing it because they need it urgently for the military. We saw that with the war in Iran. In a matter of a few weeks, the stocks were depleted and the weapon stocks were depleted, and they need the minerals for that.
Well, wait. Well, okay. So my next question, obvious question, Frederic, is where does China stand in this battle, in this war, in this race? Yes. What about China? Ran out of time. You can check out the Oakland Institute's annual impact report at their website. The links are at the show description page for A Rude Awakening at kpfa.org. And that does it for another edition of A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs. A big thank you to my guests, Anna Wagner and Frederic Mousseau, for taking the time. Kirsten is on the controls. The music on today's show, Dionne Warwick with Do You Know the Way to San Jose? And Majid Bekas and Magic Spirit Quartet with Anabi. I'll be back next week, same time, same place. Stay tuned for a rebroadcast of Democracy Now! Coming up next. And remember, good people, embrace each other as we embrace the mother of us all. Thank you for listening.
Hello, I'm Susan Young, Chair of the Pacifica Foundation Board of Directors. One of the exciting things happening across Pacifica is our National News Service. Every weekday, we're bringing together stories and reporting from across our network, giving listeners a broader perspective of what's happening around the country and the world. It's another way Pacifica fulfills its mission of providing independent journalism and thoughtful coverage of the issues that matter most to our communities. We get to hear from longshoremen in Oakland, a nurse in the Bronx, a farm worker in Ruidoso, a screenwriter in LA, and a school teacher in Washington, D.C. We can hear their own lives reflected back with dignity and depth.
KPFA is the media sponsor of Berkeley Pride, From Joy to Justice, a celebration of the power of the LGBTQIA+ BIMPOC community. This event is wheelchair accessible on Sunday, August 30th from 11 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. at MLK Jr. Civic Center Park in downtown Berkeley. Proceeds benefit the Pacific Center for Human Growth, a 501c3 organization. More information is at pacificcenter.org/Berkeley Pride.
KPFA paid staff is associated with the Communications Workers of America, CWA Local 9415.
This is 94.1 KPFA and 89.3 KPFB in Berkeley, 88.1 KFCF in Fresno, and online everywhere at kpfa.org.
KPFA.